Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Nikki Giroux. I'm a friend of the Kulow's family. Kyle asked me to be moderator for him tonight. I live in the city, so I'm not able to vote. I think that's partly why he asked me, because I'm totally neutral. I'm Switzerland here. And how it's going to work tonight is I'm going to go through a little short introduction to Kyle. I'm going to talk a little bit about his key issues and policies. I'm going to ask him a few questions, and then we're going to open it up to the floor for any questions that you might have. Okay, so about Kyle. Kyle Kulow is a business owner and a fourth-generation resident of Lake Mills, running for the Town of Lake Mills Town Chair in the April 1st election. He has a strong background in the fiber optic communications industry and a passion for community service. And Kyle is committed to making a positive difference in the lives of Town of Lake Mills residents. So, the key issues and positions that he wants to discuss. 1. Roads and infrastructure. Kyle supports continuing to improve the town's roadways and infrastructure, recognizing the importance of regular maintenance and upkeep for the safety and functionality of the community. He feels that this is a top priority of the town to keep their focus on. 2. The new town hall. Kyle believes in finding a way to move forward with the project of building a new or renovated town hall, providing necessary space and amenities for residents and visitors. Simple and cost-effective plan is how we will solve this for future generations. 3. Lake District. Kyle does not support the rumblings of the formation of a Lake District, which could lead to additional taxes for homeowners with deeded access to Rock Lake. Instead, he believes in finding alternative solutions to support lake-related initiatives and projects within the guidelines and regulations of the DNR. Okay, so now I'm going to ask him a few questions, just so that you guys can establish a little bit about him and his background. So, Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in the Lake Mills community?
Well, hopefully I don't blast you out with my voice versus Nikki's voice, but thank you. Everybody's telling me they can't hear you in the back, so I'm yelling for everybody if they can't, because I think if I turn it up too loud, you'll have a squeaky microphone. But regardless, as Nikki had introduced me, I'm a fourth generation Kulow in the Lake Mills community. I have deep roots here. Both my parents were born and raised in Lake Mills. Believe it or not, Robin, it's the only time I'm going to call on you. She could check the history books. But my grandpa Harvey Kulow had served on the board at some time, many, many years ago, probably before I was even born. But, that deep connection is something that's very important and why I'm doing this. And, I grew up on a farm, a poultry farm. It's not a glorious job, little stinky, little messy, but that instilled a great work ethic at a young age. I graduated from the Lake Mills High School, class of '98. I think Jen is the only other one. Oh, Ginger's there. She's also a graduate of 1998, Lake Mills High School. Had a lot of fun in high school, but worked hard in high school, where I was able to achieve some great accolades going through school, which Dick Soper Award is very important for the town of Lake Mills. Jeff Netso also was voted into National Honor Society, and believe it or not, I got reminded of this a few weeks ago. I was inducted to the Wisconsin Football Coaches Hall of Fame for scholar athletes. Thank goodness that plaque is still in the trophy cabinet. But for me, that taught me a lot about hard work, and with hard work comes success, and it will pay off. And hard work is being married to me, and I'm thankful that Jennifer has been with me since high school, our junior year. I stole her. Just kidding, just kidding. But we've been together for 24 years. We have 3 beautiful daughters. Riley's my oldest over there. Emma is in the back there waving, and Hannah is way in the back as the youngest. Imagine that. The youngest is in the back of the room, of course. Somebody keep an eye on her. And then we have two Labrador retrievers, George and Norman. And we recently were blessed with a grand puppy who is also a Labrador. Um, Mabel is her name, and she likes to bite. So um, we live on Stony Creek Road. If you guys aren't familiar, take Highway B out west. Um, just before you get to the Batiste farm, it's that dead end road right as the fence line meets the road, and that intersection is there. We've lived out there, it'll be 2 years this summer. We certainly enjoy hunting out there, being outdoors, fishing when there's time. And we also took on a camper and have gone into the camping world. So that's been kind of fun. And certainly we love being out on Rock Lake, just boating in general. It's a good time. A new passion that I have is that I volunteer at the high school as the basketball announcer for the Lake Mills girls and boys. It's been an absolute blast. I wish I could do that for my career, but they don't pay very well at the school yet for that role. But it's something that's giving back to the community as much as I can. And I actually volunteer for that. They offered to pay me, and I said, I love this so much, I'm doing it for free. So it's just a great time to, make it about the kids and have a great experience as they get announced, because I still have those memories in my life, being in high school and having a good time with that. So that's me in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Kyle, now tell us why you are running for town chair.
Yeah, this is one I get on a lot of different occasions. I'm trying to make sure I summarize this correct for everybody. With my deep connection to the community, and now that I've matured, I guess, for lack of better terms, I'm at that age where I can give back to the community. And I feel I have some assets and some skills and qualities that I think I could give back to the community. And one of those is just a genuine quality to connect with people. That's always something that invigorates me, even for my work life. Being a business owner, there's nothing more exciting than meeting new people and connecting with new people. And I think that's a very important, quality that we need for town chair to have in that role. I also feel that, with my growing up in Lake Mills, I have an understanding of the history of Lake Mills and the township and the surrounding communities, even traditions for that matter, that I think it's me to be a representative of all of the community is what I'm truly seeking, is that nomination from you to be elected on April 1st, because I think I don't think that other representation is happening from the other candidates. So.
Great. So on that note, how do you plan to take on the challenges that the town could face?
Well, I think before I even start day one, the biggest challenge is that we're losing 3 board members who probably have over 50 years of experience on the board combined. And I think challenge number 1 is that we're going to be losing a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. And certainly, I think that fits my skill set is the relationships that we're going to have to rebuild with the county and other local communities. And not saying that they're bad. It's just with them leaving, times are changing, and we got to rebuild some of those with the new board that's going to be in control. But breaking it down, for me, when it's town of Lake Mills specific issues, I think number 1 is we got to identify, is that truly a town of Lake Mills issue that we need to address? Is it maybe perhaps another government or agency that needs to be handling that, versus the town of Lake Mills sticking their nose in that business that may end up in legal action that we certainly don't want to pay for. I think the other thing that we need to make sure of is how is it impacting everyone involved, not just the person who brought that to the table, that this is a challenge that we need to overcome. I think as a town, we need to identify that this is a real issue for the townspeople and not just a personal vendetta that somebody's trying to bring up this issue that could potentially be resolved a different way. Um, you know, I'm a big data guy, research guy. We got to make sure we have the data and the proper research done for the issues at hand, looking at all sides of that perspective, both, you know, positive, negative, and understanding the cost that it may be with each of those decisions. And I think we also need to look at, you know, our friends and colleagues who could help us. You know, we have a lot of resources in the town of Lake Mills who have been there. Certainly the board that's exiting, the members that are exiting, you know, would be a great resource for us to help us. But also other communities that have done this. How did they handle it? How did they work it through their process? How did they manage that? So for me, that's how we got to address that. And finally, when it comes to that, I think decisions need to be made. You know, however that needs to be done. I think that's the one thing that needs to be addressed is we've analyzed it, we've gone through it, we've made this decision, and now we're committed to this decision for the townspeople of Lake Mills, and we all agree that this is the best direction to go. I think one thing that can happen in government is we fail to make that decision, and we keep pushing it off and keep pushing it off. We got to make that decision and live with it. And, you know, that's kind of how I feel we can assess everyone's, you know, challenge and, you know, that comes to the table from their perspective. But we got to keep in mind that keeps the town's perspective for the goals that we're trying to achieve. And lastly, I guess to summarize it, to make it simple for you, communication, collaboration, and being dedicated to that decision. That's how I'd, you know, summarize that answer for you.
Great. How do you respond to critics who say you don't have enough experience in local government?
They're fired. They don't know. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I do lack some of that experience, no doubt. But I can say in my 25 years in the fiber optics communications business, I have half of that time I was in the contracting world. I worked in the Chicagoland area, and let me tell you, I learned a lot about humanity, and I learned a lot about government agencies, and you know, that has taught me a lot, I think, to be able to handle, you know, some of those questions and understand the inner workings. But secondly, I'm going to continue to lean on that, being able to build relationships with people. You know, I've started connecting and with current and former, you know, government officials at the state, city, you know, county level, and even other townships to say, hey, could you be a resource for me? Could you help me out if I have these questions? And absolutely, that resource has been available. And you know, in the construction world, nothing ever goes the way you plan it to. And you just got to have those resources available, and that's something that I'm going to be focused on and making sure that, you know, I have that resources, have those resources available because of that non-government work that I've done.
Awesome. Okay, so in our final question for you, why should everyone in this room vote for you?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'll take the signs down and I'll stop staring at y'all, I guess. But all kidding aside, I have a deep value to the community. You know, I grew up in this town. This town has raised me. I want to give back to that community. I think, you know, without that kind of dedication, these elections just become popularity contests and we start pushing our own agendas. And, you know, I think that my roots and my vision of what the future could bring on some of the issues that we talked about earlier is just a desire to give back to the community. And I think for me, I want to represent the residents of the town of Lake Mills in a respectful, friendly manner and make the town of Lake Mills approachable from other communities to maybe work on joint projects and be helpful to, you know, the surrounding communities as well. And that's why I'd ask for everyone's vote in the room here.
Thanks, Kyle. Okay, we're gonna open it up to the floor. We can do this one of two ways. I can either repeat your question just so that everybody can listen and hear, or there is a mic at the back of the room. It's plugged in, so unfortunately we can't take it around to everyone. If you want to stand up and go and speak in the mic, or I can just repeat the question. We're videoing this, so I'm mic'd up here, so we can put it on Kyle's website for those who couldn't make it tonight and want to listen more about Kyle. And if we could just keep it as one question at a time, not like a sentence with 3 different questions. Keep it on point, and then everybody can listen to the answers. All right, who's first?
Hold on, I'm going to do one shout out to the board members who are leaving. I do want to say thank you for your time and dedication and the service to the town of Lake Mills. You have been an integral part to where we're at today. So I just, even though they're not here, let's give them a round of applause. Now you get to be first. Who wants to be first? Chuck?
Right. You're at the back there. You can get the mic.
Chuck, you don't need a microphone, Chuck.
My question is, Kyle, we have a lot of road problems that need to be addressed. It's always been a problem, will always be a problem, because they were never built to handle the kind of transportation that we use today. What type of approach are you going to have to see what we can get done?
Yeah, that's...
I'm going to repeat the question just a little bit. It's about the road problems and what Kyle is going to do to address those.
Thank you for asking, Chuck. I drive down Krogville every once in a while, and I know part of Harvey is pretty rough. But I had actually talked to a couple of the people that I had talked about in my intro about being resourceful. And to Chuck's point, you know, they were old farm dirt roads that they just plowed together and compacted them, and they don't have a very good base. So even though we scratch the surface and put new paving on, it's going to look pretty nasty in a few years anyway. So how do we address that? And really the way I'm going to be looking at that is trying to search within the state for additional funding. There are funds for rural town roads like we have, especially with all the farming community that we have, to allow for the tractor weights and the additional traffic that we've seen. I think there's one fund with about almost $2 billion of funding available for grants, and that is something on the board. Whether Robin wants to hear it or not, we may be filling out a lot of applications for grants. But I think that's one way we're going to have to attack it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the budget. I think over 70% of the budget goes to roadway maintenance. And just so you guys know, we have a $1.5 million budget that's planned for 2025 from the last numbers that I saw before the annual meeting. But that doesn't leave a lot of money for roadway projects when you're talking almost $1 million a mile, right? For a full reconstruction, getting down to the base layer. So number one, looking at the state level for additional grants. There's 2 specific funds that we'll be looking into. One is much larger than the other, but also communicating with other agencies. And I've talked to some people at the state level to potentially find funds that may be available for townships like us that we can apply and use for whatever we want, which more than likely will go to roads to get a good jump on what's happening in our town. And then secondly is working closely with Jefferson County a little bit with some near projects or close projects that potentially we could tie into something that they may already be doing, and seeing if we could come up with another plan that way. But then also other townships and even the city of Lake Mills, if there's something close, if we can extend it another 10 feet, you know, or 100 feet, whatever we could do to help with that budget to make sense of it. If they're already out there, it saves a lot on mob and demob cost just to get set up for those roadways. Is that a good answer for you, Chuck?
Close.
Wouldn't expect anything less. Thank you. Yeah, he'll keep me honest.
Anyone else?
Thanks for being first, by the way.
Any other questions? Yes, great.
I have a question, a little different topic regarding lake level management.
Yeah.
I know that the city operates the dam and has control over that with guidance from the DNR. But a number of town residents, a number all the residents on the lake are town residents. So do you see that you have a role if there are issues with the lake level management as a town chair? And if so, what role would it be?
I'm just going to repeat that for anyone who didn't hear. It's about the lake level management and how Kyle, what his position is, what his job is, and how he's going to deal with it.
That is a difficult, multifaceted question, but I'm going to try to summarize it as best as I can for you. In short, the DNR dictates what that level is going to be, whether we like it or not. We can make recommendations. We can say, this is what we want to do. This is when we want to do it. But it's still going to be on the DNR whether they make that decision or not, because it's a public waterway. Being a voice is what we have to do with the surrounding communities, and invigorating the the city and really the town of Lake Mills residents to make more of a fuss. But it's a very difficult one because it is managed by the DNR. Even though the city runs it, they take the direction from the DNR to say, raise it, lower it. This is when you need to do it. This is when you need to have that taken care of. Now, there are applications that the city can do, but that's the collaboration and being a voice for the townspeople to make sure that the city of Lake Mills knows, hey, the west side of the lake is frustrated with this. We need to make some changes in when we submit for next year, and what they look at. And from my understanding, there's like multiple different facets that the DNR looks at when it comes to, climate, where it's at the rainfall in the beginning in spring, and there's a lot of things that go into that we're always behind the eight ball, I think, no matter what Mother Nature throws at us. But I think to answer your question, it's really just being a voice for those people on that side of the lake, and trying to work with the city and also the DNR to listen and hear us out. Like, hey, we've been complaining about this for 5 years. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to come up with a better plan? And trying to collaborate. I do have some people I know at the DNR to connect the right people, but it's a collaboration of multiple agencies within the DNR even. So working
You're
through.
willing to take on the role of being
Absolutely.
for the town residents?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you're going to work with the other committees that we have with the Rock Lake Improvement Association, the Joint Rock Lake Association. I'm not going to bulldog all of those, committees over, because those have an important role as well. But at some point, we need to collaborate and have a voice that is pushing it forward and saying, this is what we need to do. This is what everybody's talked about. So, yep.
I'll follow up on that. I know you use the lake, I know you got boats. What is your position on the lake level right now?
I'm just going to repeat the question. What is Kyle's position on the lake level right now?
Lee, I wish I've been out there enough to realize how low or high the lake is. I've been busy with kids' sports. I think the last time I was on the lake, it seemed like it was pretty full, but I'm guessing it's going to not be so full. But no, traditionally it's been lower than it has been in several years. I know docking boats is an absolute pain. Just a side note, they are going to be working on the north end launch, so hopefully that fixes that a little bit, but you still got to have water to get it into. I do think it's a little bit too low, and I think the city had even submitted that they want them to ramp up to keep the water a little bit higher and release it. I think it was like May or June to allow a little bit gradual runoff, so we don't run into what we had last summer, or certainly the summer 2 years ago was absolutely terrible. It was one of those where you look at the lake, you drive by that launch, and you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to put that lake in there, my boat in there today. Now it's a little bit easier with a pontoon than my old boat, but certainly it's something that we want to make sure that we address and continue to communicate. That nobody's happy with the lake level.
Anyone else? Oh, yes, great.
I have a question on the EMS and the fire protection. That's always been somewhat of a controversial mess. And all that. Do you have any thoughts on that, on which direction we should be
At least the
going?
last couple of years.
Okay, let me repeat the question. Is a question about the EMS and fire protection.
I need a drink before this one. I'm just kidding. It's only water, don't worry. That's a great question. From what I'm seeing at the board meetings is that's going to be decided that we'll be working with Cambridge and Deer Creek. What's that? Deer Grove, excuse me. I always get that mixed up. But regardless, we'll be working with those communities in a consortium of small communities with EMS service supporting us. My perception, I think it was merely timing with all the mess that happened in the city of Lake Mills, as well as, what was going on with a lot of other communities. And I think there's town of Oakland even bailed out of that consortium as well to provide EMS service. It's not perfect. Where we're headed now is a fill gap to where the situation was, and once you committed to that, you couldn't necessarily back out. And it's been a difficult situation. Had Lake Mills got that figured out like 3 or 4 months sooner, that probably would have helped everybody to provide a better service. But that is something that we can review when it's time to review that, to take a look at. Because certainly everyone on the east side, of the township would rather have the city of Lake Mills versus, being on the west side and providing that service coming from, Deer Grove. But I agree. It's something that we need to address in later. But I think that decision's already been made to be a part of that consortium.
Do you support having two different services for, one part of the town versus another part of the town so that the services are more expedient to get to those residents?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
The question was, does Kyle support having two services between the town and
When you look at the size of the town of Lake Mills, some of the residents are closer to Cambridge, or some of them are closer to other towns where it could be better served. When it comes to emergency services, it's about fast and response time, right? So I'm open to that and hearing, all sides of that argument. But from what I've seen currently, we've had to make that decision because there was such a mess in the city that we couldn't decide on or wait on for that decision to be made for our residents to not have service. I live out on Stony Creek. I don't know who's showing up in a reasonable amount of time, and that was a big concern. Now we're going to have a direction where that's going to be, but I also know that's where I live. Might be faster for me to get in a UTV and run over the interstate or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But, it's one of those things timing was our enemy. It really was. When the city of Lake Mills and the ambulance company that was volunteer was disbanded and trying to figure out that service, we just missed out because we had to make that decision for our residents. Thank you for the question, though.
anyone else?
I've solved a lot of problems today.
Yeah. All right. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, thank you very much, Kyle. Thank you, everybody, for coming and getting the introduction, getting to know a little bit of Kyle, a bit about Kyle.
If you're shy, unlike me, you can chat afterwards and talk about some other issues. I'm happy to have that. That's why we allow the time. Please mingle, get to know people in the community around you. And, I just ask for your vote on April 1st and hope for a bright future for the town of Lake Mills. Thank you for coming.
There's some food on the side there. There's coffee. There's beautiful desserts here. So please have some before you go. Otherwise, we're going to have to take it home.
When we got canceled the last time, we did donate it to the recovery companies in town. So they got to enjoy some wonderful snacks. I think we took it out to 8 Yep, and Steve's, yeah. So they were working hard for us, so it didn't go to waste. Those guys gobbled that up.